Hello everybody, you're here with James Mott. Midwinter diving, very cold up here in the Great Lakes area, up here in Michigan, the Midwest of the US of A. Water is cold, mid-February, we got a high of 30 degrees tomorrow, and one of the biggest issues that I always have with cold water diving is keeping my hands warm. And I've tried literally every single combination that you can possibly think of over the years. And I'm constantly in a quest for the perfect solution. And tomorrow, I'm going to try the next installment. These new Fourth Element Halo AR gloves. So looking forward to checking these out. They're super comfortable just putting on here. They're a little bit thick, a little bit worried there about the thickness, but in comparison to my hands being so cold that I physically can't do anything underwater, a way to keep them warm, I'm very much looking forward to. So let's give them a go. These gloves are nice. It's a beautiful material. They're soft, they're comfortable, they fit great. The thickness of them allows them to hold enough gas in there to create an insulating layer, which is beautiful. The problem that we always tend to have diving in this really cold water is, do I keep my hands nice and warm, but at the expense of losing all the dexterity because there's so much insulation and protective layer of the gloves so that I can't end up doing anything anyways, versus do I let my hands get cold because I've got very little amount of insulation in there so that I can keep being able to move my fingers and do stuff with my hands and have the dexterity, but eventually they get so cold that I can't do anything anyways. It's the paradox of cold water, icy water diving. Tomorrow we're going to be diving down at Gilboa Quarry, the gem of quarry diving in the Midwest. It's a high of like 27 degrees Fahrenheit tomorrow. Typically on a dive like that, 20 minutes in, my hands are cold, painfully, uncomfortably cold. Trying to stretch a dive out, in this weather, especially when it's that cold before the dive even starts, to try to get 30, 40 minutes in is tough. It's painful. And the end of the dive can be very, very rough. We're trying to get 2 dives in, 2-hour-long dives in tomorrow, doing some training. So we'll see how it goes. I've been wearing the Halo AR undergarment for about a year now, and I do love it. It's great. This is the same stuff. The outer layer's water repellent. Now, when I say I've used a lot of different gloves over the years, I've used every kind of rubber outer glove. These ones are comfortable, but they're slick. These ones that everybody has are textured, so you get a little bit of a better grip, but they're balloony at the fingers, and they're a little bit sloppy, and they start to stick together over the years. These chemical gloves are great because they've got a really nice low profile, super thin, good feel, but they're not big enough overall to get enough of a heavy duty liner in there to create any warmth, but they're great for dexterity. These Atlas style gloves that have the texture inside of them are super durable. They've got a great feel, but again, you can't get a lot of lining inside of them. You do the Atlas gloves with the liner inside of them. These are pretty comfortable, pretty warm, but you got to wear another liner inside of these gloves still, because if your hand gets all wet and sweaty and whatnot, it's going to thicken up the liner, and once that loses all of its loftiness, you lose the insulation. And even still, this is what I've been using for the last couple of years. It's the warmest and most comfortable that I've had. But still, when you're diving under the ice for 20 to 30 minutes, I mean, that's about all you can take before your hands just get so brutally cold that they're frozen, and you're trying to inflate your dry suit, with your elbow because it's the only pointy thing that you can get because your fingers don't work anymore. It becomes nearly impossible to dive. (21°F) Saturday morning on my way to good old Gilboa Quarry. Lovely morning to go scuba diving. Welcome to Gilboa Quarry, the coldest dive site in the land today. Well, it's an hour and a half in the water today, and my hands were still working. That's rarely, my mouth is barely working though. That is rarely the case when diving in this cold of water this time of year. 20 degrees out Fahrenheit. The water was actually pretty warm, holding at about 40 degrees Fahrenheit, which is pretty nice. And usually after about 20 minutes or so, my hands would be so damn cold. I wouldn't go so far as to say my hands were warm with those gloves, but the cold prevention of that Halo AR glove from Fourth Element is beautiful. Now, I picked these gloves up from Granger. It's just a lightweight shell of a glove with a little bit of a textured lining to the inside of it. Not much. They're super lightweight, got to be careful with them, easy to tear, but they're cheap. They're only like $3. The problem is with most of those other rubber gloves, the liner itself is so thick that on top of the thickness of this glove, you just lose so much dexterity. So you're back to the paradox of I've got warm hands, but I have no dexterity because there's so much glove between the gloves, the liners, that I can't do anything, versus my hands, I can move around and I have dexterity at the beginning, but they get so cold by the end of the dive that they're just frozen nubs with no circulation and blood flow that you can't do anything either. So with the Halo AR glove, I was very happy. I was able to do everything that I wanted to do. I kept dexterity the whole entire dive. My hands got cold, but I mean, it was a brutal weekend. The wind was blowing like crazy. The outside temperature just kept dropping and dropping and dropping throughout the day, down to 19 degrees Fahrenheit by the time we were done diving for the day. Every other glove that I've used, I know from the past 30 minutes in, and I'd have been calling it. But like I said, we had a short little dive, had a couple of equipment issues, had to get out, stand around at the water's edge for a little bit while we had a guy go make some repairs. Got back in for another whole entire hour, and my hands stayed functional the entire time. Not warm like an electric heat warm, not like a nice warm, roasty fire warm, but able to mitigate that cold coming in and just destroying all movement out of my hands. So, excellent job on the gloves, Fourth Element. Way to go.